Hello, this is Molly Reamer with Bridget's Grove and 30 Days of Goddess. And this week, instead of our usual mini ritual, I'm doing something a little bit different. It's kind of a mini ritual, kind of a substitute for our usual live community practice. So every week in the Goddess Magic Facebook group for Patreon, I do a community practice live. And this week, since I am traveling, I'm not doing a community practice live. And so I thought I'll go ahead and do kind of a combination mini ritual video / community practice. So first, inviting you to take a nice deep breath, settle into your body, into this time in this place where you are right now. Here we are in a new year, when life feels bright and full of possibility, but when inside of our hearts, inside of our bodies, we're still called to rest, to replenish, to renew, to let ourselves consider possibilities, not necessarily to choose, but to consider possibilities. So another deep breath. And then I'd like to go ahead and start with today's reading from 365 Days of Goddess. And this is actually a really nice companion to our theme of the month, which is explore. Sometimes we wonder where we've come from and where we're going, whether anything has any purpose or meaning. Sometimes we may feel like sinking into hopelessness, giving up and letting apathy and distraction take control. As we stand on this whirling world and wonder, may we remember that the molecules of our bodies witnessed the birth of galaxies, that our soul stuff was scooped out of an infinite pool of divinity and coalesced into consciousness. We cannot question miracles, for we belong to each other, to this wild earth and wide sky. There is no time to despair. There is good to gather where we are. So I think we really need this message today, as there's a lot going on in the political world. So let's remember, this is not the time to despair. There is good to gather where we are. There is good to gather where we are. And so I would like to share a little bit today about our Goddess of the Month, Circe. So I'm not doing separate Goddess Guidance Club videos this year. Instead, I am kind of blending Goddess Guidance Club information into the weekly ritual videos. And so Circe is our Goddess of the Month, and Circe is the Greek goddess of magic and sorcery. So she was considered a minor goddess, but I have to wonder sometimes about those kinds of designations, because sometimes the designation minor goddess just means goddess that we don't have a lot of information left about, not that she didn't have power and wasn't significant. So Circe is the Greek goddess of magic, sorcery, and enchantment. She's the daughter of the sun god and a water nymph, and the ruler of her island home, where she weaves a network of magic to ensnare and enchant. Guardian of sorceresses and witches, she's associated with prophecy, knowledge, illusion, and transformation. She's also associated with potions, herbal lore, and healing. And so she's best known probably to the public eye from Homer's Odyssey, in which she's described as a dreadful goddess with lovely hair and human speech. She's also described as having flashing golden eyes that shot out rays of light, and sometimes described as having hair like fiery rays as well. And so she's known for her knowledge of herbs and magic and sorcery and enchantment, and she's also known for the classic story of turning Odysseus's men into pigs when they come to her island. But she also has an island that's prowled by these bears and wolves that are these other men that she's turned into animals when they come to her island, and then she turns them into these different things. And so you may also be familiar with Madeline Miller's book Circe, which is a really good book, but I will caution you, it has a lot of assault and trauma, and while that kind of humanizes Circe a little bit, and I think that was the author's intention, I think we have to be careful sometimes about assuming that somebody has to overcome significant physical violence and trauma in order to become powerful or claim their power. And we also have to be careful in stories of goddesses when that's part of the thing. So if the men come to the island and like assault her, and then she gets revenge by turning them to pigs, that there's kind of there's a larger lesson there, almost of like, if this is what we can do to a goddess, no wonder, men can take over the world kind of thing. So there's kind of like a subtext that I steer away from or I'm cautious about. And I do notice that a lot of books about powerful women often include this descriptions of assault that they've had to overcome. And I know that a lot of women have that experience, but sometimes I would just love to read a story of a powerful goddess on her island brewing up enchantments and ensnaring the men and turning them into pigs and wolves and bears without anybody having to attack her first. Like sometimes there's something there. And so I will caution you if you read that book that there's a certain element of like, we don't necessarily have to be re-victimized by our entertainment fiction kind of thing. So that's just my little caution. And so that brings me to the poem I wanted to share with you about Circe called Circe's Power by Louise Gluck. I never turned anyone into a pig. Some people are pigs. I make them look like pigs. I'm sick of your world that lets the outside disguise the inside. Your men weren't bad men. Undisciplined life did that to them. As pigs. Under the care of me and my ladies, they sweetened right up. Then I reversed the spell, showing you my goodness as well as my power. I saw we could be happy here as men and women are when their needs are simple. In the same breath, I foresaw your departure, your men with my help braving the crying and pounding sea. You think a few tears upset me? My friend, every sorceress is a pragmatist at heart. Nobody sees essence who can't face limitation. If I wanted only to hold you, I could hold you prisoner. And so I like the power in that. If I only wanted to hold you, I could hold you prisoner. Ooh la la, Circe, tell it. Okay, so anyway, lots to say about Circe. Basically, she's described first as this beautiful goddess who's living in a palace, isolated in the middle of the dense wood on her secret island, and then she has these lions and wolves that prowl around. She lures anybody into her home with lovely singing. She weaves on this big loom, and then later drugs them and then changes their shape. So Circe not coming out that great in this story, but I think she has a lot to teach us about exploring our own power, exploring our own magic, exploring our own enchantment, exploring our own sovereignty, and our own wisdom and our own power and claiming and using that power. So I'm not suggesting that you drug people or turn them into pigs, but that we think about the claiming and exploring of our own power and the dipping into and being willing to use our own magic, being willing to use our own magic. So they sneak in, turns into pigs, etc., etc. And after they stay on the island for a year, and Odysseus and Circe become lovers, and they have children and all that kind of stuff later on. And so she tells him he has to go to the underworld and that kind of thing. So he also goes on this underworld journey. So she's not an underworld guardian herself, but she ushers him down into the underworld to explore, to gain wisdom and then return. So there's a lot going on with Circe. She has a lot to tell us, but I loved that poem about Circe's power. So switching gears, we're going to close with Circe, but switching gears, this year I'm planning to use the Herb Crafter's Tarot, which is by the wonderful Joanna Powell Colbert and Letitia Guthrie, and I love the art. And so I haven't actually used this deck very much. I'm a very big fan of the Gaian Tarot. This one I'm still exploring, but I thought last year I used the Illustrated Herbiary and Maya Toll for our herbs of the month, and this year I'd like to use Herb Crafter's Tarot for our herb of the month. So I chose, and we received Chicory, 2 of air, which is chicory. So our herb of the month is chicory. And then there's some information from the book to share with you about that. And so there's some core messages from Chicory. Release long-held beliefs. So it's a perfect time of year to release long-held beliefs. Be receptive to guidance and open to unlikely partnerships. So some invitations in this new year. Chicory thrives in a meadow. The tall stems pierce the sky, and ground-nesting birds make a home in the dense brush beneath. The flowers' blue petals jut out like platforms, hubs of pollinating activity. Bees and moths gather morning nectar, wasps devour aphids, and 2 white butterflies flitter about the wild field. That's what's going on. Old ideas can be blinders to new wisdom. So I think that's really important in the new year, that old ideas can be blinders to new wisdom. So what might you be closing your eyes to because you're still holding on to an old idea? Let go of worn out thinking in order to see an issue clearly. Chicory is often classified as a weed, but just like Circe, who's diminished as a lesser goddess or just a witch instead of a goddess up in in full power on her island, turning everybody into animals. But she's kind of, oh, she's just the island witch, like, let's not worry about her, instead of seeing her in her power. A chicory is something called a weed, and it's not a weed, and it's also sometimes referred to as a coffee substitute. I wrote a poem about, I actually have chicory tea right here that I'm drinking, and I wrote a poem once where I said, like, accept no substitute for who you are. Like, you are just chicory by yourself. Like, you don't need to be a substitute for anything. You are who you are. So anyway, that's my chicory wisdom. I drink chicory tea almost every day, and dandelion. So anyway, it's a beneficial plant medicine as well that draws important insects to the garden, and you can drink it as tea, and it's totally delicious. And so some messages here are: be receptive to new guidance, gather information before taking action, then be still and look within. After you collect the information, take some time to be still and look within. As the long chicory taproot brings nourishment to the surface, a deep dive will quiet self-doubt. A deep dive will quiet self-doubt. What is really true? So invite yourself to consider that question this week. What is really true? Acknowledge what you do not want to accept, and there can be a lot. Acknowledge what you do not want to accept, and then be willing to listen. When it is your turn to share, do not hide behind a closed and fearful heart. Open wide like a bold chicory flower. So there are some suggestions for engaging the chicory. We don't have chicory blooming right now. We do have it all along our roadsides in the summer. But suggestion to pluck the petals of a chicory flower, release old beliefs aloud with the falling of each one. So I would suggest perhaps drinking some chicory tea instead, and inviting those old ideas to fade away, and then imbibe, drink in something new with those swallows of chicory tea if you have them. Observe pollinating insects. We also can't do that right now, but journal the question: how might I open more in my relationships? How might I open more in my relationships? And another practice suggestion: be bold and clear, dress like a chicory flower, put blue streaks in your hair, or wear blue to honor chicory this month. So engage with chicory. If you have some to drink, drink it. If you have some as an herb, you might leave it as an offering outside. There are different ways to use chicory. So we're going to go ahead and close with a little mini ritual from the back of my Goddess Guidance Club packet for this month, and the word on the back is expansion. So I breathe deep and allow myself to expand. I allow myself to expand. I allow myself to explore new ideas and my own expansion. And then another affirmation: I let go and discover I am held. I let go and discover I am held. In my own expansion, I let go and discover I am held. And then there are several little poems. Let's go with both of these two. Let us remember, let us trust, let us know, let us open our hands to the goddess, let us return to center, let us restore wholeness where we are. Let us restore wholeness where we are. And then here's another one. We are invited each day into newness, into breathing the very breath of the world spirit herself. We are invited into presence, into the commonplace magic that keeps the world turning and our hearts beating. Here we are in the temple of the ordinary, watching the sky. And then truly closing with Circe's little poem. Listen, I am the enchantress. Drink deeply of your life. I am a wisdom keeper and myth maker, a storyteller and web weaver. I know how to sit with mystery, listen to the wind, and learn from the wild. I am willing to witness and wonder, to choose and to change. I make my own magic. So may you trust that you can make your own magic. May you explore new ideas and new possibilities. May you remember, may you dive into and claim your own power, your own knowing, and your own wholeness. Thank you so much for being here. Keep living your magic. Bye-bye.